Harper worked as a senior mining engineer on a FIFO roster, frequently flying out for long, grueling swings at remote mine sites in the outback. Her path to this harsh profession began in a dusty mining town on the edge of the desert, where life never handed anyone a free pass. Harper's dad worked in the mines his entire life, coming home with a face permanently stained by red dirt, but always with a warm, loving smile for his daughter. From childhood, she learned the ultimate outback lesson. Respect is only earned by those who aren't afraid of hard yucca and know how to keep their word. When her father passed away from an occupational illness, her family was pushed to the absolute brink of financial ruin. Barely out of high school, young Harper swore to herself that she would follow in his footsteps and pull her mum out of humiliating poverty. She stubbornly clawed her way up in the harsh, male-dominated world of engineering, where absolutely no one gave her a discount for her age or her gender. The young woman spent her nights poring over complex blueprints and her days working in blistering heat, silently swallowing the outback dust. Every single callus and scar on her hands was a silent testament to her incredible devotion to her family and her chosen path. After finally reaching a senior role, she was able to provide her mother with a comfortable retirement, but her own heart remained deeply lonely. Harper desperately needed a partner, someone with whom she could just take off her heavy hard hat and be a vulnerable, soft woman. In her world, where everything was made of steel, concrete, and strict rosters, she deeply craved simple human hugs and genuine words of support. When Oliver appeared in her life, he felt like that long-awaited breath of fresh air. He was charming, creative, and full of grand ideas that absolutely fascinated Harper, who was so incredibly tired of dry numbers and logistics. She loved him with all her touch-starved heart, deciding to become his most reliable, unbreakable rock. To her, true love was always expressed through an absolute willingness to give everything for the happiness of her partner. Harper genuinely believed that if she temporarily shouldered the financial burdens, Oliver could truly unlock his creative potential. In her straightforward and honest view of marriage, there was simply no room for secrets or exploiting someone else's kindness for personal gain. She was perfectly willing to disappear on exhausting FIFO swings for weeks on end, just so her beloved man felt confident and comfortable. Her soul was completely open, and she blindly entrusted him not only with her hard-earned savings, but with her entire future. The young woman naively believed that her unconditional self-sacrifice would become the solid foundation for the real family she had dreamed of since childhood. This deep, sacrificial love made her stop asking questions and always take his word for it. Harper honestly thought that shared hardships only forged a relationship, turning it into an unbreakable fortress. She didn't even suspect that her holy faith in their partnership made her the absolute perfect target for a calculating parasite. Her whole life had been dedicated to caring for others, and she was way too used to giving without demanding anything in return. It was exactly this genuine, bright trait of her character that prevented her from spotting the cynical lie already taking root in her own home. She sincerely loved her husband, Oliver, and did everything to encourage his desire to become an independent entrepreneur. A year ago, he announced he was launching a high-end landscape design company, and Harper didn't hesitate to invest a massive chunk of her savings from the mines to buy him an expensive ute and top-tier equipment for his startup. Oliver was constantly heading off to major job sites interstate, assuring her his business would soon be pulling in millions, while Harper obediently paid all his endless invoices for building materials and machinery hire. She truly believed her sacrifices would help build a rock-solid financial future and was incredibly proud of her husband's drive. Just before her rare, extended block of annual leave, Harper was helping her husband pack his bags for yet another massive business trip. "Babe, are you sure you really have to go away this exact weekend? It's our anniversary," she asked, with a hint of gentle sadness, folding his business shirts. "Darling, you know how crucial this landscaping project at the new country club is for us," Oliver replied with a heavy sigh, tenderly kissing her on the forehead. "If I lose this client, my business simply won't survive, and all your generous investments will just go down the drain," he added, masterfully playing the guilt trip card. Harper instantly felt a pang of guilt for being selfish and hugged her husband tightly. "I'm sorry. I just missed you so much. Go, and don't worry about a thing," she said sincerely. "By the way, Sunshine, I need to pay for a shipment of exotic plants for their gardens. Could you transfer another $5,000 to the corporate account?" Oliver asked casually, zipping up his duffel bag. "Of course, my love. I'll do the transfer right now," Harper agreed without a shadow of a doubt, habitually funding his ambitions. After saying goodbye to her husband, she stayed behind in the empty house, planning to spend the first few days of her leave catching up on domestic chores. The next morning, Harper was trying to find her spare car keys and opened the tracking app on her phone to locate the smart tag attached to them. She expected to see a pin on the map somewhere in an industrial estate or on the outskirts of the city, where wholesale plant nurseries were usually located. But the geolocation showed that the keys Oliver had taken on his work trip weren't at a construction site at all. The red marker was pulsing confidently on the grounds of a prestigious private winery in a picturesque valley, an area famous for its luxury events and high-end celebrations. Harper frowned in confusion, trying to figure out why a landscape designer would spend his weekend at such an elite, expensive venue. Suddenly, a happy, almost childlike smile lit up her tired face. Convinced that her husband had organized a grandiose surprise and was secretly setting up a romantic weekend getaway for their upcoming anniversary, she felt an incredible flutter of excitement. Harper didn't say a word to anyone. She put on her best dress, hired a rental car, and drove to the address, absolutely buzzing with anticipation. The whole drive up, she listened to her favorite music, picturing Oliver greeting her with a bouquet of flowers and a chilled glass of champagne. She even jokingly scolded herself for accidentally ruining his secret plan with her random GPS check. However, when she arrived at the luxurious estate, her rosy illusions began to melt away at a terrifying speed. Instead of an intimate, romantic dinner setting, she saw the bustling preparations for a massive, crowded celebration. Waiters in crisp white shirts were setting up rows of chairs on a perfectly manicured lawn, while florists decorated a huge archway with hundreds of fresh white roses. Harper slowly walked toward the main path, feeling like an invisible, icy hand was ruthlessly gripping her throat. Standing right at the entrance to the winery on an elegant welcome sign written in shining gold letters were the names Oliver and Chloe's wedding. Her entire world crashed down with a deafening roar right onto that perfectly mowed green lawn, leaving nothing but a ringing, unbearable emptiness in its wake. The shock was so severe that Harper nearly passed out right there on the pristine lawn. The air instantly left her lungs, as if someone had delivered a ruthless, physical blow directly to her gut. She stood in front of those gold letters, blinded by pain, frantically trying to take just one saving breath. Years of grueling FIFO swings, the calluses on her hands, and those sleepless nights transferring her last savings to him flashed rapidly through her mind. The man she had sacrificed her youth for was, at this very moment, preparing to say his vows to another woman. Hot, scalding tears of betrayal streamed down her cheeks, blurring the outline of that mocking wedding sign. Harper felt an agonizing mental torment, realizing the grandiose and filthy lie she had been living in all this time. Her perfect marriage was just a convenient movie set, hiding a cynical, calculating, and absolutely shameless egoist. But the second she pictured his smug smile at the altar, the burning resentment rapidly began to transform into something entirely different. The sharp, paralyzing pain retreated, giving way to the ice-cold, crystal-clear fury of a deeply betrayed woman. Her analytical engineer's brain quickly overrode the panic, switching into survival mode. Harper wiped her face with a tissue, smoothed out her elegant dress, and marched confidently toward the estate's main administration building. Pretending to be the groom's event coordinator, she walked into the admin office and politely asked to review the event's billing breakdown. The girl at the reception desk, not questioning the confident guest for a second, pleasantly handed over a thick folder of contracts. Harper opened the heavy pages, and her eyes quickly scanned the columns of numbers and payment descriptions. In the documents, she saw with absolute horror that the astronomical bills for the banquet, the live band, and the florists were all being paid directly from her own investment account under the guise of purchasing landscaping materials. That exact $5,000 Oliver had begged off her the day before for exotic plants had actually paid for a multi-tiered wedding cake. The heavy machinery hire listed on her receipts turned out to be the booking code for the newlyweds' luxury presidential suite. Every drop of her sweat, poured out on scorching mine sites, had been converted into crystal glasses, fresh oysters, and silk ribbons for someone else's celebration. The man she loved had been leading a double life for years, and now he was about to marry the young heiress of a wealthy family, using Harper's money to create the fake image of a highly successful businessman. He was playing the wealthy entrepreneur for his new rich in-laws, while in reality he was nothing but a pathetic, broke leech. Looking at those papers, Harper felt the kind, naive, and forgiving wife inside her die completely. In her place rose a hardened woman with an iron spine, ready to ruthlessly defend her dignity and her hard-earned cash. Her hands didn't shake at all as she pulled out her smartphone and began methodically documenting every single page of this outrageous scam. She took dozens of clear photos, saving the contracts, bank details, and the signatures of her lying husband. Taking copies of all the wedding contracts, she quietly walked out of the estate and got into her rental car. Closing the car door, she allowed herself one brief, dark smirk, realizing the devastating power she now held in her hands. She wasn't about to throw a hysterical tantrum on the lawn and ruin their rehearsal the day before the main event. On the contrary, she wanted Oliver to climb to the absolute peak of his triumph before she violently pushed him off the cliff. Harper started the engine and purposefully headed back to the city, not wasting a single minute of precious time. She urgently contacted her lawyer, insisting on an immediate late-night meeting at double the hourly rate. The solicitor was absolutely floored by the sheer scale of this cynical scam and instantly began drafting ironclad legal documents. Together, with surgical precision, they built the legal attack strategy against the arrogant fraudster. Harper also made sure to secure the paperwork proving her absolute legal ownership of the work ute, which was fully registered in her name. Watching the sunrise from the lawyer's stark office, she felt completely cold-blooded and ready for the epic battle ahead. This traitor was about to learn the hard way that stealing from a female mining engineer is a fatal mistake. That is exactly where she spent the rest of the night, preparing a massive fraud lawsuit and her divorce papers. The following day, as hundreds of elegant guests gathered on the lush green lawn of the winery, Harper made a spectacular entrance at the exact moment the bridal march began to play. The guests held their breath in anticipation, turning their heads toward the beginning of the floral archway to welcome the successful entrepreneur's future wife. But instead of a glowing bride in a white gown, they were faced with Harper, dressed in a sharp, perfectly tailored business suit. Her stride was so firm and unshakable that not a single person present even attempted to block her path. She walked confidently down the flower-lined aisle straight to the altar, where Oliver stood, turning ghost white and rendered completely speechless by absolute terror. His smug smile dissolved in an instant, replaced by a grimace of primal, paralyzing fear. He tried to take a step back, as if hoping to hide from the impending retribution behind the towering floral arrangements. The music abruptly cut off, stopping on a sour, awkward note, and a heavy pre-storm silence hung over the lawn. Right in front of his new fiancée and her powerful parents, Harper loudly announced that this highly successful businessman was still legally married to her, and that this entire extravagant party had been paid for with stolen mining money. Her words echoed over the rows of chairs, sending a deafening wave of shocked gasps rippling through the elite crowd. The bride's father, a highly respected man in the city, slowly stood up from his seat, glaring at his future son-in-law with undisguised rage. Chloe herself, standing nearby in her lavish gown, covered her face with her hands, realizing she was about to marry a broke fraudster and a bigamist. Harper threw a heavy folder filled with bank statements and a court injunction right into his chest, and then, in front of the entire crowd, snatched back the keys to the work ute that was legally registered in her name. The printed pages proving his cynical theft scattered across the perfectly manicured lawn like confetti at this festival of hypocrisy. In an ice-cold tone, Harper added that the police had already received a formal report for major financial fraud. Now, instead of a luxury honeymoon on a tropical island, this arrogant bloke was facing long, exhausting court battles and very serious jail time. "You can walk to your court hearings," she stated quietly, but incredibly clearly, turning on her heel to leave the spectacle behind. The guests parted in dead silence, watching her go with looks of absolute respect for a woman who had so masterfully stood her ground. Oliver was left standing at the altar with no bride, no stolen money, and no car, surrounded by the disgust of his guests and the very real prospect of prison time for financial deception. His illusionary world of luxury, built on the sweat and tears of his lawful wife, burned to the ground in a matter of minutes. Harper got into her ute, fired up the powerful engine, and drove out the winery gates feeling a sense of absolute, boundless freedom. She had proven by her own example that loyalty and kindness should never, ever be mistaken for weakness. What would you guys have done? Would you have let the ceremony go ahead and dealt with it privately later? Or would you have completely nuked this fake wedding right at the altar too? Make sure you share your honest opinions down in the comments, because we really want to hear your take. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more gripping, justice-served true stories.